Hello, everybody. Glad you can join me here again today. On Thursday, we had the Democrat debates, and today we're not going to be doing an analysis of who won and who lost and who had the best moment. If you want that type of analysis, I would recommend looking at Scott Adams' Periscope because he did a very good analysis, I thought, and his analysis is always very good. He does a good job with that. But today, what we're going to be talking about are the debates themselves, the format of the debate, and we're also going to be talking about what Andrew Yang could do going forward to win the nomination process, as I've predicted in my previous videos. But I'm going to share a framing with you that is going to completely change the way that you view these debates. It's going to completely change your perspective because once you hear this framing on the debates, you're never going to look at them the same way again. And there's one piece of evidence that I want to share with you that's really going to be mind-blowing. I haven't heard anyone else say it, which is why I'm excited to share it with you. But let's just go ahead and get started. So when I watched the debate on Thursday, afterwards, I realized something. And that is that the debates are not optimized to bring us information. The debates are optimized for nonsense. The debates are actually optimized for ratings. And if you look at what a typical debate structure looks like with people who are really smart and it's meant for popular consumption, if you look at that type of debate, that generally looks like maybe 30 minutes for an opening statement with 15 minutes follow-up rebuttal, maybe another 10 minutes of rebuttal, and then some Q&A at the end where the candidates can have a more candid discussion, more casual. They're going back and forth, and these debates are really fantastic. You can learn a lot. You can see the best minds in the world discussing their ideas, and they're really fantastic. But what we have for our political process is 30-second questions, 30 seconds in order responses. And you can't learn anything in 30 seconds. You can't learn anything at all. And I want to show you this graph that should really drive this point home, that these debates are optimized, again, for nonsense. They're meant so that the news stations have something to loop over the next day. They can say, this person won. Look at this 15-second clip of them winning. They can share it on social media. And really the proof is in the pudding because Thursday's debate, I think, broke records for the Democrat debate. I think I heard Chuck Todd say they got 18 million people watching. And let me tell you, 18 million people are never watching MSNBC. It just doesn't happen. But they had 18 million people watch the debates, and that's the most ever in history. So they have this down to a science. They know what they're doing. They know by asking these candidates a whole bunch of gotcha type of questions and allowing them to zing each other back and forth, that's going to be good for ratings. And that's what they're doing. But I want to show you this graph. This is going to blow your mind because it blew my mind. Here we have on the screen a graph of how long did each candidate speak. And at the bottom, of course, we have our boy Andrew Yang at 2 minutes and 50 seconds, which is really astounding in and of itself because this is a 2-hour debate and Andrew Yang gets 2 minutes and 50 seconds of this. And he's what, like 5th in the polls, 5th in the predicted markets. He's a candidate that is a real candidate, and 2 minutes and 50 seconds is practically nothing. But that's not what's interesting here. What's interesting here is the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris speaking times, because Joe Biden got 12 minutes and 53 seconds. Kamala Harris got 11 minutes and 37 seconds out of a 2-hour debate. If out of 2 hours you only get 11 minutes or 12 minutes, there's really very little that you could convey. Even if you had the straight 12 minutes to talk, you still can convey very little information. The debate process that we have right now is completely broken. It's completely broken. And Eric Weinstein tweeted something out, and he wanted Andrew Yang to lead the exodus for a new debate format, to just forego the rest of the debates. I assume, don't even worry about the other debates. Let's try and find out a better way to do this. And I thought that that was an interesting idea. Because what would a new debate format look like? What would a new debate format look like? I don't know, but it's something that's interesting to talk about, because the current situation does not seem like a good situation. Let me put it this way. Who is the bigger threat to democracy? Is it Russia or is it MSNBC? Who's the bigger threat to the democratic process, Russia or MSNBC? And before you solidify your answer, and you probably had an answer pop into your head, let me put it this way. If Russia really wanted to, and they tried really, really hard, would there be any way that they could cut the mic of someone on the stage? Would there be any way for Russia to stop someone from speaking? If you've been on Twitter, you probably heard that MSNBC muted or cut Andrew Yang's mic. And in this debate format, where you're actually encouraged to butt in, and when I mean encouraged, that means you're incentivized, because if you butt in and then they give you 30 seconds, that's an incentive. That's a very big carrot that they're offering. So butting in is actually something that they want candidates to do. If they didn't want that, then they would just cut their mic when they started speaking. They would have everyone's mics muted by default. But rather what they're doing is muting only some candidates' mics. And if you're going to have a debate format like that, and you selectively cut or mute some people's microphones, that's interfering in the political process. Russia would not be able to do that. There's a lot of people who talk about corporations having too much influence in politics, and that's probably true, but not in the way that you think it is. It's true in the fact, when they say corporations have too much influence in politics, they're talking about like ExxonMobil or Merck or some pharmaceutical company. But when you think about it, the corporation that has the most control over the democratic process is the corporate news media. The corporate news media has more influence than Russia, has more influence than ExxonMobil, because they're able to control what questions are asked. They're the ones who have the mute button, and they're the ones who really control how much time each candidate has on screen, how much time each candidate has to talk. The corporate news media has more control than anyone else over our political process. That doesn't seem like a good situation to me. I wonder what the solution would be. Go ahead in the comments and let me know what you think. But realizing that those debates are optimized for nonsense, the next time you watch the debate, the next time you watch the debate on CNN or ABC or CBS or XYZ or WQRL, whatever it is that you watch the debate on, whatever three-letter nonsense they come up with. Next time you watch the debate, think of it as, how much nonsense are they going to be able to get away with this debate? Because again, the more nonsense that's on the screen, the more zingers, the more back and forths, the more opportunities that candidates have to slip up and fall, and there's no information being presented. The more of that you see going on, the more money the network is making. It's optimized for nonsense. So, with that being said, what is it that Andrew Yang can do going forward if he still wants to be in this thing? What can Andrew Yang do to win? And I have two solutions that I wrote down. And unfortunately, there's a lot that I want to talk about, but I probably can't. We'll get into that in a second. But the first thing that Andrew Yang needs to do is really realize that the traditional news media is not going to treat him like they would treat Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. The media likes Kamala Harris, and Scott Adams in his Periscopes talks about how the media has actually chosen Kamala Harris to be the next Democratic nominee. And his reasons are that she's very telegenic, she's a woman, she is multiracial, and she kind of checks all the boxes for the Democrat let's call it the Democrat machine. She's a candidate that they would really like to promote on television. And so his argument is that Kamala Harris has already been chosen by the news media, and that's his pick to win the whole thing. And he predicted Trump earlier than anyone else. And so his reasons are very good for predicting this. But if Andrew Yang is going to win, what is it that he needs to do? If you want, Tony Robbins said this, if you want to do something that's never been done, you have to do things that no one's ever done before. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. And so with that in mind, and with knowing that the news media is not going to treat Andrew Yang fairly, he really needs to look at alternative media as a main focus of delivering his message. Andrew Yang has never got any new voters on CNN or MSNBC or any news network. If he has, it's been a very limited amount. Andrew Yang has never gone on CNN and gotten a whole bunch of new voters, but he has gone on Joe Rogan and got a whole fan base just from Joe Rogan. He's gone on Dave Rubin and spoke to millions of people in the format that he really is best in. If he wants to continue to get any sort of media coverage, he has to start thinking outside of the box when it comes to media. And so I suggested that he go on Dave Rubin, and a lot of people said that he shouldn't, and then he did, and he had a great conversation with Dave Rubin. So what are the places that he could still go that he hasn't been on already? Well, if it were up to me and I could choose, I would say I would very strongly consider having an interview with Scott Adams, because he's expressed interest in interviewing the candidates and really moderating his own debate. I don't know how that would look, but that would be very exciting. But I would talk to Scott Adams. I would talk to Tim Ferriss. If you know Tim Ferriss, he interviews a lot of entrepreneurial people, and I don't know if there's any way to make that happen, but talking to Tim Ferriss would be absolutely fantastic. If there's, and more of a stretch, talking to Tony Robbins. If you could talk to Tony Robbins, now that's pretty interesting. I would talk to Tony Robbins. I would talk to people in Silicon Valley like Sam Altman or Eric Weinstein or anyone from the Y Combinator network. You have to start thinking outside the box in terms of media, because the traditional news media is not going to get it done. And for what it looks like to me, they don't even like Andrew Yang. So why are you wasting your time with them? If you have nothing else better to do, of course, go on the shows. That's fine. But realize that the places where Andrew Yang has got all of his supporters has not been on CNN. It's by doing things that are different. It's by doing things that are outside of the box. And secondly, when it comes to the next debate, my big concern going into the debate was that Andrew Yang was going to approach it like a traditional debate, where there's rules and the moderators would decide the winners, and that you can't just start talking when someone else is talking. That's how a normal debate looks. But he has to realize that this isn't a debate. It's a show. It's a show that's designed for ratings. You can't optimize for a debate. You have to optimize for a show. And one way that he could have instantly doubled his speaking time, let's go ahead and look at his speaking time again, by the way, because this is just insane to me. Let's take a look. Look at that. 2 minutes and 50 seconds, 3 minutes. Could you imagine if my videos were 3 minutes long? That wouldn't even get past the intro. But if he wanted to instantly double his speaking time, one thing that he could do is attack the other candidates. Because if you attack the other candidates, they're going to respond, and when they respond to you, you get another 30 seconds. That's just how the game is played. So if you want to double the amount of time that you have, take some time to attack the other candidates. And it's not something that we would really like to see. It's not something that we really want to happen. We don't want to see Andrew Yang be a mean guy, but we do have to at some point start seeing shades of the killer Yang. We want to be able to see Andrew Yang take on a political opponent and then beat them. It's a zero-sum game. He's going to have to beat someone, and I've talked about that in a previous video. But we need to start seeing the killer Yang, and we need to see it on the debate stage. And there is one I was thinking about today. There's one linguistic kill shot that I thought of for Kamala Harris, but I can't share it because if I share it and I'm publicly on the record, it wouldn't work if you tried to use it later. So I can't talk about it. I would love to share it with you, but I can't share it. But let me say that there are definite persuasive opportunities to go after all of the other candidates. And Kamala Harris is now the top dog. It's no longer Joe Biden. Joe Biden's going to be going straight down. But there is a big opportunity to attack Kamala Harris. I wish I could share it with you, but it does exist. It does exist. If you optimize for the show, maybe he can discover that by himself. I'm not sure if he can though. I hope he can. I hope he can. But optimizing for the show and optimizing for persuasion especially. If he does those two things, he has about a month before the next debate. If he can do those two things, it's going to be a night and day difference. And I'm sure his campaign team is already working with him on that. But these two things kind of have to happen. And it's the only way that he's going to have a shot. Because, again, if things stay exactly the same, Kamala Harris is going to be the Democratic nominee. Whether you like it or not, that's what's going to happen, because the news media has, that's just the direction that they're going, and that's the game that they're playing. And if you want to change the game, if you want to change the rules, first you have to win the game. To change the game, first you have to win it. And so we will see what he does, and it'll be interesting to watch over the next few weeks. But the next debate, we're definitely going to be doing a live stream. And if you were just watching the show, that's about it for the show. But I do want to give a few shout outs, and I want to shout out all the people who joined us on our live stream for the last debate. It was really a fun time. I had a great time. And it's really a lot of fun watching the debates with a bunch of other people who aren't your personal friends. Because if it's your personal friends, you don't want to get in a political debate with them. And, you know, a lot of my friends don't even like politics like that. So watching a debate with all of you, it was just a really good time. It was fantastic. I was laughing a lot. It was just a good time. And also, we have our first donation to the show. So thank you so much for the person who donated. With that money, I went ahead and bought a subscription to the Adobe services. So going forward, once I learn how to make Adobe Premiere work, we can start making the videos better and better and better. And now I have some good editing software to do that with. So the money that comes in, I'm using it for the show. I'm not going out and, you know, buying food with it. I'm using it for the show. So if you want to support the show, there's going to be a PayPal link in the description. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at ReadyBrianRoss, like Ready Player One, but at ReadyBrianRoss. And we have a good time on Twitter too. But I will see you all next time. That's it for today. See you guys. Bye-bye.